Hey boos, in this video, I give commentary based on my opinion. Nothing is to be taken as factual. We are just here to have conversation. We don't expose and we don't sip tea on this channel. I'm giving you real talk straight, no chaser. Let's see if you can handle it.
Cause I'm a boss.
Oh, hell no.
Hi guys, it's Yanni and I'm back with another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about T.I. and his recent interview that he did on the podcast called Podcastone, and he was talking about life hacks with the ladies like us. It's two women and the question gets brought up about has he had the sex conversation with his daughters, and for whatever reason he decided to comment on his daughter Deyjay, who recently just turned 18. She went off to college this year and she's just in a space in her life where she's trying to figure things out as a grown woman. The thing that was a little weird was the fact that T.I. said that he goes to the gynecologist with his daughter to ensure that she's still a virgin. Now, we all know that you can't always make that determination by a doctor examining you to ensure your hymen is still in place. That method of figuring out if a woman is a virgin or not is not always 100% accurate. Let's go ahead and tune in to this podcast interview to see what T.I. actually said, and then I'll be back with the remainder of my commentary.
Which, by the way, your daughters are so beautiful.
So beautiful.
So,
Thank you so much.
I'm sure you have your hands full.
And like the other one's
absolutely.
18, so she definitely knows about sex.
See,
but
this
I'm
is
just
the
Wait,
thing.
it's Deyjay, right? She's 18,
Yes,
right?
Deyjay's 18, just graduated high school now, and she's attending her first year of college, figuring it out for herself. And yes, not only have we had the conversation, we have yearly trips to the gynecologist to check her height.
Okay.
I'm done with you right now.
So,
The number one thing that I wanted to focus on first when speaking on what he had to say, please understand that T.I. is doing what he feels is best for his daughter. Because recently with age, I come from a father who had similar tactics, crazy ones like T.I. With age, I'm 27 now. I understand why my dad did what he did. Let's take away from the fact that this is T.I. We are looking at a father, and he is thinking in the moment right now with his daughter that he's doing the right thing, and he feels that this is his way of protecting her, even though us on the outside, we're looking in and we're just like, oh, that's crazy, that's controlling. It is, it's all of that, but he feels that he's doing the right thing. So I just wanted to point that out first before I go in and attack, because I am definitely going to attack what he had to say during the interview, and I'm just going to break down some of the things that I just did not agree with. But I just wanted to make it known that at the end of the day, parents, fathers are not perfect and they're going to make mistakes. But we also need to look at the fact that he thinks that he is doing what is best for her, even though we find it to be crazy, ridiculous, controlling, just unfair, weird, disturbing. At the end of the day, he feels that he is doing what is best for her. I also want to talk about how women, young women, are not able to sexually express themselves, and sometimes sexually expressing yourself isn't always having sex. Sometimes it's having a conversation about sex, getting educated properly on sex. When I was educated on sex, I was basically told not to have sex. It hurts. Men only want you for sex. My parents basically tried to scare me out of having sex. I know my father did for sure. That was the thing that I didn't understand. Why was sex considered like this taboo? But at the end of the day, everyone was doing it and it was like the most natural thing. So it's how we procreate. It's how we share intimacy on a different level. And it's like, why is that not being talked about? Why is that not being discussed? Why are parents, fathers in particularly, trying to make it seem like sex is like this bad thing and it's something that you should never do, it's forbidden? And I feel like when it comes to the sex conversation, it shouldn't be viewed that way, and it shouldn't be taught that way, and it shouldn't be explained to kids that way. And it's this taboo in the Black community. When it comes to Black women, we can't be sexually expressive because we're automatically labeled this and that. If we have multiple male friends, homies, homeboys, male friends, whatever you want to call them, or even if we're dating around and we're seen out with this guy, we're automatically labeled a hoe, even if we're not actually doing anything sexual. It's all about how it looks. That's another thing that I wanted to point out. I really wish the Black community would be more open to women being able to sexually express themselves, whether it's verbally, whether it's physically, whether it's mentally and emotionally. Like, we should be able to sexually express ourselves. It should be more embraced and not silenced, because I feel like when Black women, when we're younger and we're young women and we are trying to grow into grown women, adults, we don't get that chance to really express ourselves when it comes to our sexuality. And like I said, it doesn't automatically mean that it's physical expression. It could mean just having a conversation about it. Another thing that I wanted to touch on, T.I., he said no one likes a virgin. And you're looking at a girl that lost her virginity later in life, and it was a decision that I decided to make because, I don't know, like, all of my friends were having sex pretty young, pretty early on in life, and they had horrible stories. For me, I decided to wait later in life. I had a really great experience. I don't have a shitty, oh, I lost my virginity story. I actually have a decent experience with losing my virginity. It was with an older man, and when I look on the experience, I feel he took care of me during that time. When you lose your virginity with a younger male, they are so focused on the hype of the fact that, oh, they're about to get some, that they really don't take the time to really care about you during that time, and the fact that you are about to do something that, A, you've never done, you don't really know what it feels like, and yes, it will hurt temporarily, but they don't understand that. They're so focused on getting some that they really don't take care of you during your first time. So for me, my experience was a little different than my friends. My friends, they all had horrible experiences, but when I look back on my experience, I'm just like, it was a great experience. And it was also an experience that I can look back on and be proud of that, because I decided to wait later in life. When you get with a man that is at a point in his life where he's had plenty of ass before you, and you've gone through the process and the steps with this man, and then it finally happens, then he understands that he has to take care of you within that moment. Versus when you lose your virginity when you're younger with someone that is younger, they don't really understand that because they're not mature enough to really get it. I wanted to share my thoughts on that. You know, virgins are not fun, and with me losing my virginity later in life, I bumped into a lot of men that wouldn't deal with me because I was a virgin, and I dealt with a lot of men that didn't want to put up with me because, you know, virgins are labeled like this thing where we're complicated, we're hard to deal with, we are all of these things because we haven't had that experience. Also heard of the whole we are emotionally attached and we're clingy, and I was the total opposite. And it could have been because I was older and I had gotten to a point where I knew the difference between emotional, and then I knew the difference between I'm just being clingy just to be clingy. I think if you lose your virginity when you're younger, you are not mature enough to really understand the difference within emotions, and also you're not in a place where you can control your emotions. Your emotions kind of control you because you're going through adolescence and puberty and all of that. It could just be really complicated. So whenever I advise and influence young girls about their virginity, I say hold on to them, because you want to be able to get to a place where you're mature enough to be in control of your emotions, to where you're not clingy and you're not being complicated just because you lost your virginity. But I do feel it's a bunch of bullshit for older women who decide not to partake in losing their virginity that we're automatically labeled difficult, complicated, or oh, she's going to be clingy because she doesn't know what it's like. All of these different things, and it's just absolute bullshit because that was not my experience. Another thing that I wanted to touch on from the podcast interview was that the women on the interview were very disappointing because they were laughing and they were basically joking with him, but this was such a serious topic. And if you're going to be conducting interviews on your podcast or whatever platform, and it's such a sensitive topic like a woman losing her virginity or a woman and her sexuality and her sex life being talked about on a platform where she is not even able to take up for herself. She can't even chime in on her own experiences, but her father is sitting there basically giving her life story to the world on her own sexuality. I just found that to be very weird. I thought the women in the podcast interview didn't do a really good job, and it was actually very disgusting to listen to them laugh with him and make fun of virgins. It was disgusting. Like, how can you be a woman and do that knowing how it is being a woman and how hard it can be? Another thing that I wanted to touch on, I grew up in a very, very, very strict household. My dad was so strict, you guys, and I just want to end with this. If you are a father, the worst thing that you could do is put your daughter in a position to where she has to lie to you because you're that strict. Because Deyjay could easily get to a point where she doesn't feel comfortable going to her father to talk about maybe her having sex or thinking about having sex. She's probably not going to run to him. And you really want your daughter to be able to come to you with things like this and topics like this, like sex, so that she can have a conversation with you. You would rather her run to you than to run to some other guy. And because I grew up in a strict household, I would run to other guys instead of run to my father. So when I see T.I. and I understand he's thinking that he's doing the right thing and he's being a great father, but in reality, he is not creating a space for him and his daughter to have an open, honest relationship. He's making it more of a dictatorship, more control, and it's just all around toxic because she's never going to feel comfortable to come to him for advice or to come to him about guy advice, or if she gets her first boyfriend, she's never going to feel comfortable to ever have those conversations with him. When I was growing up, I used to lie and sneak around a lot, and I found myself in very, very uncomfortable situations, unsafe situations, because I had to sneak around just to get a little bit of what I thought I was missing out on because my dad was so strict. I was just in a ton of situations where I don't think I would have been in those situations if my dad wasn't so strict, because I was so obsessed with what he didn't want me to do, because he never would explain to me, he never would sit me down and say, hey, this is why I'm telling you not to do this, or this is why I'm telling you not to do that, learning and lecturing me on why I shouldn't do this or why I shouldn't do that. When it comes to T.I., I really feel like he should sit down and have a conversation with Deyjay, and maybe he has done that, and maybe he's taking it an extra step by going to the gynecologist with her. But at the end of the day, I just feel like trust needs to be involved when it comes to being a parent and being a father to a daughter. There just needs to be more understanding and less controlling and less, silencing of a young woman, because when she grows up to be a woman, because she will be that, you want her to be able to come to you with things, or come to you with guy problems, because you want to ensure that she is putting herself in a position to be safe. She's putting herself in a position by a guy that is going to treat her well. Now, when it comes to T.I., we can all agree that he doesn't lead by example. So I don't want to really speak on that. We are all aware that T.I. does not lead by example. This was a great topic to speak on and to talk about, because within the Black community, it's this taboo for Black women to speak on sex, and it shouldn't be. It should be this thing where we can all come together, we can have a conversation like Jada Pinkett Smith on the Red Table Talk, where we can openly talk about these things. Deyjay is not not a little girl anymore. She is an adult and she should be able to go to her father to talk about sex if that's something that she wants to engage in. It's really up to her. That's really all that I wanted to say regarding this video, you guys. But what are your thoughts and opinions on this topic? Do you feel like the women on the podcast, ladies like us, do you feel that they made a mockery out of women seeing that they were women themselves? Comment down below. And also, how do you feel about T.I.? How do you feel about black fatherhood and the black father versus daughter dynamic? How do you feel about that? And also, how do you feel about the sex talk within the black community and black families? Comment down below. And if you haven't, please subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell so that you're notified for when I upload, and I'll catch you in my next one.